Hello there. We've caught up with Dr. Gary the Friday before his master's students have a rather large presentation due, and we have a few questions for him. Are you ready, Dr. Gary?
I am. I'm ready to answer your questions.
All right. We understand there's this new thing students do where they say, I'm not sure if this is right. Is that okay? What does this mean and how can you help them?
So over the last 5-10 years, there's been this thing where on the day something is due, particularly a paper or a speech, someone will come right at the beginning of class and show you the paper or talk to you about their speech and say, I'm not sure if I did this right, but will it be okay? It's a technique where they're asking to be excused from whatever they didn't prepare for. That's not okay. We need to stop doing that. The best way to circumvent this problem is to start early. In this case, today, by doing the presentation ahead of time. There's tools on our Blackboard page and other places that will help you get started today. But what we don't want to see is a group of people lining up by the instructor on Monday asking, did I do this okay? Because frankly, what if you didn't? There's no time to fix it.
Dr. Gary, tell us your thoughts on note cards.
Note cards are the devil, the 9th grade devil who's running for student council president. No one who is 45 years old and running a human resources meeting is speaking from note cards. You never see anyone on TV and Shark Tank using note cards. Frankly, I don't know why college students still use note cards when making presentations. There's a bunch of alternatives to using note cards. You can print the outline out, you can fold it in half, you can memorize your presentation, you can rely on bullet points that are in your PowerPoint presentation, but we do not want students using note cards. It's the thing of the past.
How about PowerPoint? It's just slides, right? Any tips?
So PowerPoint is something that most of us loathe because we've been victims of it our whole lives. You want to do a PowerPoint media keynote Prezi presentation that's done well and that has actually been created to support the outline that you've pre-prepared for your presentation. One of the things to do this is to check out the tutorials that have been placed on your Blackboard page, as well as ask Uncle Google. There's plenty of good ways to do PowerPoint that aren't death by PowerPoint.
How should the students be dressed for their presentation?
So it's interesting in a professional communication program that students are still talking about, well, how should I dress for a presentation? One of the things to always remember is that you are your message, and in communication, your clothing sends a message about you, whether you like it or not. So for our Monday presentation, I'd say get cleaned up a little bit, look nice, have fun. Don't necessarily come in gym clothes, but you don't need a full-out suit in Florida in the middle of September either. I'd say dress the part for the presentation and the message you'd like to send.
Any tips on interacting with my audience?
Right, so when it comes to interacting with an audience, this question gets brought up because people think that there's this fourth wall in speech making that they can't break. But in reality, that's not how professional communication works. If you're running a training, a tutorial, you're making a sales pitch or a meeting, you're asking questions of your client or your colleagues right there on the floor. We need to start practicing this skill today. So yes, you should be interacting with your audience. And I'd like to add, if you ask a question at the beginning of a presentation, there should be a purpose for it. So how many folks have seen the Bolts play this week on TV? And then you should follow up and say, okay, of those who saw the Bolts play, what did you think of this particular player's play? It should not be a dead-end question. You want to interact with your audience and be real about it.
Can you give us an example of movement and content?
Right. So with the last minute I have with you, I'd like to show you a little bit about the movement map, which we've talked about in class and that you've seen online with some video tutorials. You should come down to the beginning of the stage or the front of the room, and you should have an introduction that has energy. After you make your intro with your attention getter, your thesis, your preview, and then your overall thesis, you should move to the first point, which is somewhere over here, and make that so that people are making sense of what you're saying. In this case, it might be the problem with fitness industries and how professional communication can help it. From there, you move next to the next point where you might say statistics say fitness industries need to be all-inclusive, which is something that the MAPC could help with. And then finally, I'll move to my last point, which is the solutions that my company or my idea would come up with using the theories that we've talked about in the Master of Professional Communication program. And then you come downstage and conclude where you say, today, I've talked a little bit about the problems with the fitness industry, how some statistics have solved it, and what MAPC will do to make the world a better fitness place.
All right. Is there anything else that you can think of to help students as they prepare their outlines?
Practice. So if you're nervous about presentation or if you're nervous about speaking, you want to make sure you practice. Uncertainty avoidance theory is the theory we talked about on Wednesday. And if you can reduce the uncertainty around your presentation, you know that you can have a good one. Look, you know that you have nice people in the class. You know that they want you to be successful. You know both of your professors want you to be successful. You have tools posted that can help you be successful. Now it's up to you as the student to hone that skill. And if you know that's not uncertain, you're going to nail it, then everything else will take care of itself and you'll have a lot of fun making presentations that the rest of us are excited to hear.